working out as part of the team that fit the pattern of the communication impairment, or the mental health profile, autism, mentioning a good example. Guiding intervention, so using assessment to guide intervention. Okay, so is any intervention that a speech and language therapist can offer, either individually or working through the team, does that help the client and the staff and the team and the service to communicate more effectively with each other? An example may be that if you are working in a mental health unit, you put in a system of visual support across that unit for all the clients and the staff to use. Does that help? Does that help that team, the client, everybody accessing that service to be able to communicate more effectively? Important point then, I haven't explicitly covered this, is why that would be important. So let's have a think about your own experiences. Why would it be important on a mental health unit, for example, that the clients there, the staff there, the service as a whole are able to have some means of communicating effectively with each other? Why would that be important? Why would a visual support system help with that? Yeah, saying a system whereby people who don't communicate very well can have access to communication systems to help meet their needs. Yeah. Think about our own experience, so whether you've wandered into a GP service, ward in a hospital, lots of information everywhere. The sound of university students can probably read and access all that information. Lots of people who can't. So what's the impact of that potentially?
They might not be properly informed of all the services that they can have access to.
Absolutely, so knowing what's available and how to access that. It can be just really basic level, and I've done this myself. Not been able to understand where I'm supposed to wait and in which queue I'm supposed to be waiting in, and I've sat there for 40 minutes until I've realised I've been waiting there for 40 minutes, and somebody says, well actually you're supposed to be over there. Okay. So it can be very little things, it can be really big things. It's really important that there is a means of communication for everybody. The third part of the role of assessment would be to work with professionals, with a team, with the people who deliver that service, who perhaps in charge of that service, about how their clients communicate and how they themselves can communicate effectively with their clients. And again, that there's an effective means of communication. So another example of that, not strictly related to speech and language therapy, but again, if you've been on hospital wards, NHS services, there is now much more information written in different languages other to English. Okay. That's really important. Might seem really obvious. 20 years ago, that didn't happen. So again, this issue about people knowing what's on offer and how to engage with those services, how to get their needs met. And if you think about the most recent Francis reform into the Staffordshire issue, how is this relevant to that? And what you've seen on the news. Okay, so Staffordshire inquiry, one of their recommendations was that services were not listening to the needs of their patients and the needs of their clients. So again, a really important issue. So that's assessment. Another role of the SLT is to enable clients to achieve their optimal levels of communication, thinking to facilitate all the areas of the treatment or intervention that they're receiving. So that may be pharmacological, so medication, maybe psychological therapy, it may be behavioural management, if you're working with children, for example. And it's optimal, so it's the best levels of communication that the client can achieve if everybody's working together towards it. And there may be different configurations of that. There may be direct intervention with the client. Okay. Tends to be less common with this particular area of speech and language therapy. Often it's about working with the client's environment to make that more communication friendly. And it's about working within that multidisciplinary team. In the children's service, for example, you may have mental health services that do a lot of psychological therapeutic work, type work with children. But they may need some support, some training, some advice to make that more communication friendly for those children that have significant learning disability and find language difficult to understand. Okay. You're working as part of that multidisciplinary team. And following on that, from that, the third aim, or the third component of the role of speech and language therapist is a very important one, okay, and that's providing education and training in your field, your specialist field, to carers and other professionals. That may be in the form of training, maybe in the form of written information, etc. An important role of training. So those are the three areas. We'll learn a bit more about it. Any questions about those first of all? Let's have a look at an example then. We're going to real examples that I'm reading now. So a hospital unit specifically developed with learning disabilities and mental health problems as well at the same time. Client A is admitted to the ward. He has a diagnosis of schizophrenia and significant learning disabilities. He's perceived to have become dangerous to himself and people around him. Previously, he had had input from speech and language therapy services, but that has stopped. On the ward, the staff are finding it very difficult to communicate with him. They contact the SLT, who visits and identifies that client A uses some Mhld. The staff take this on board and the SLT trains the main nurse to use some simple Mhld assignments. This results in a reduction in the client's anxiety and a way to communicate with him has been established. It's a real example of a speech therapist working with that group. You can see there isn't any direct intervention there in terms of the SLT sitting down with the client and doing something, but it's about working with the staff to find an effective means of communication between the staff and the client in that specific situation. And often in mental health services, clients do tend to move around from bits of the service, and it's not necessarily the case that all their input follows them. So you have an example here where staff, probably at his residential home or wherever he was living, knew that he needed information coming from over to the ward. As a result, you had a client that was finding it very difficult, staff not able to communicate with him. The role of the SLT was to come in and just pick up that Mhld and make sure everybody was using that if they needed to. Does that make sense? Have a look at just some bullet points really from that. So you can see the SLT there with three areas: assessment and identification of these communication problems, gave some intervention to the client by working with the staff, and enabled that means of communication so that his communication was as optimal as possible as it could be in those circumstances. Have a look at another case study. So I don't know if people have bought this, but there was a handout. Again, a real speech and language therapy report. Everybody here to see. Have a look at that. And we're going to be thinking again about a real case study with a young child, age 9. Attends a child and adolescent mental health unit as what they call a day patient. Again, very medical. Has a history of significant aggressive behaviour at home and in school. Did have a referral to speech and language therapy but never attended that, thought to be around early language delay. History of non-attendance and expulsion from school. Currently educated at home by his mum and has some very complicated family circumstances. Let's have a look at those. So his complex family circumstances is such that his family are Jehovah's Witnesses, so somebody may be familiar with that condition. His older sister requires medical intervention, but the family refused to adhere to this, not part of their religious beliefs for her to have that. JT also witnessed his father having an affair, but those involved refused to believe his account of the scene he witnessed. He lives with his mum and sister, rarely sees his father. Mum has tried to educate him at home over the last 2 to 3 years, which has been difficult as she maintains that he is very hyperactive. And he has very little contact with other children of his own age. Some quite complex circumstances. What you do is have a read through the report, so an activity you can do yourself with what you've heard. Have a look at the report, give you some information about him, some assessment information, okay, which is useful. And what we're looking at is our role here, and these are some of the questions that we would be involved in if we were working with this child as part of that team. So first of all, from the information in the report, does he have any specific language learning difficulties that could be affecting his behaviour? Can his behaviour, from the information you've got, be best explained by an autism spectrum disorder or a behavioural disorder, perhaps something else? Having a think about how his family and the staff can interact and communicate more effectively with him. Thinking about the transition, so he's going to be moving out of home education into full-time schooling, so how can that transition be managed? What the role of the SLT is there in helping that transition? And then given that your SLT works as part of a multidisciplinary team, how would you improve this report to make it more accessible for all those team members? There were nurses, nursing assistants, psychologists, educational psychologists, occupational psychologists, psychiatrists as well, and some support workers. Think about whether that report is accessible to that team who have no knowledge, particularly in speech and language therapy. So it's 20 past, so let's have a good 5 minutes on that and see if we can answer those questions. So have it to 20 past after that. Can everybody sit? Sorry. Everybody please say we can't. I don't sit there and not be able to do anything. Non-verbal functioning, so why would that be?
Well, I think if you were going to say it's a specific language learning, you need to make sure that it wasn't modelling from the background information. So it's already sort of used that you might not have the best language learning environment. So
Right. Great, so the point there, so specific in our terminology means that everything else is okay, but the child has specific problems in language learning, so sort of specific language impairment profile. So other information you might want would be some assessment of non-verbal cognition, performance intelligence, and who would do that? Who in the team would do that? That's not your yeah, so you've got an educated psychologist or a clinical psychologist to do that assessment. So if that then came back as being normal or within the normal range, there'd be some evidence to suggest that that child has some specific language difficulties. If it came back that their IQ wasn't in the normal range, was hovering borderline, not in the normal range, what would that suggest? What would that say? Where would you be coming from with that information?
It would suggest that there is no discrepancy between intelligence in language and that the language is appropriate for the level of intelligence.
Absolutely. So it would be suggesting a more sort of, as Emma said, more sort of global learning disability. Okay, another point. With these complex children that haven't had the best of experiences of children, often missed a lot of school, lots of things going at home which has made life very difficult, when you get children hovering on learning disability, borderline with IQ assessments, what might that also be saying? They're very borderline, they're 68, 70, 75 on an IQ test. Normal range being sort of 75 to 80. And it's not being identified that they're not as children, as young children being thought to have had learning disability. Might that suggest?
Might it be more to do with their experiences than...
So these, a lot of these children that have very impoverished experiences, missed a lot of school, and their development in effect is kind of more environmental kind of reasons. So again, quite complicated as to whether they really do have a learning disability as we traditionally understand it. Okay. Regardless of all that, it's not our role to be bothered about whether there's a cause for the language problems or not. Okay. What would you say about his language? Could it be affecting his behaviour?
he's got quite sort of low average comprehension, and if he's going into school and it's something he's not familiar with, then that's going to cause extra confusion.
So there may be, there may not be, okay, maybe more about his behaviour and his issues around behaviour, but there might be that when he's in school and he's overwhelmed with verbal information, doesn't really understand all the instructions coming his way, and that contributes to the behavioural problems he has. It's not going to be all of it, it's not going to be the whole reason, but it may be contributing to that. So not knowing what he's supposed to be doing and when, and feeling very overwhelmed by it. Question, thinking about his behaviour. Any evidence from this report, from what the speech therapist has found here, to whether his more social communication autism spectrum disorder, or maybe it's more of a behavioural problem or something else? Again, not necessarily a right or wrong answer, but what evidence do we have there? Would it be a profile for ASD? Okay, because
It suggests that given time, he can be friendly and sociable.
okay, so the evidence there is if you create a more supportive environment for him with small groups of children, high staff to children ratios, etc., that some of those autistic type behaviours do decrease. Okay, so there's less evidence. So he was somebody that came in, lots of people thinking, yes, he's got multiple spectrum disorder. Actually, when you provided him with more support and more scaffolding, a lot of those behaviours decrease. So there'll be some evidence to say that perhaps that's not the only thing that's going on. So from what you know about his language, how can the family and staff there interact or communicate more effectively with him? What sort of things would you suggest?
And they could use that short sentence in the simpler language that says he has problems with autism.
Yeah, so just being aware that he has problems understanding and just the simple things we ask people to do, which aren't simple. You know, it's asking nurses to simplify their language, it's not simple. Right, so just be aware of that. You know, you may say you need to pause, you need to slow down, you need to simplify. It's fine for us to say those things. In reality, doing those things is really hard, and yourselves may know that. Anybody agree with that? Yeah. Okay, why is it hard to do that? So we need to know it's hard to do that if we're asking other people to do that. And we're supposed to know that. So what should we do? Why is it hard for other people? Why is it hard for us?
I think you first got to realise what too complicated is.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So what is a complicated sentence? Yeah.
And then be able to monitor that kind of online in your own speaking.
Yeah. What else? If you're asking people to pause or you're doing work where you have to do lots of pausing and waiting.
Well, people haven't got much time and they're not used to it, like you're used to communicating to us.
It's very uncomfortable. So there are those sort of simple things you can ask people to do. What else might be helpful for him and the staff and family?
I said in the communication group that he was from the last visual using
So visual support may be a very useful way forward for him. So I do some work into a CAMS unit in Sheffield, not very much, but a little bit, and they do visual support for all the children coming in, regardless of what their needs are. So every child has a visual timetable, all the breaks, etc., school dinners, whatever is going on has a visual support behind it. And the staff there will say that that's been extremely helpful. So a lot of the children are very frightened of new experiences and need lots of support to know what's going to happen next and what's going to happen after that. So really helpful. He's been educated at home, and often you'll get children that have been educated at home in these examples where really it's not how we might think it is. The child isn't doing 4 hours a day of schooling with parents. Actually, it's really chaotic at home and very stressful. So he's been in this environment for several years. The team has decided, the local education authority decided, social services decided that he needs to go back to some sort of full-time schooling outside of home. That's a big transition. So from what we've learned about transition, how might the speech therapist be involved in facilitating that transition?
Just talking to the teachers and the school staff and telling them about his needs.
Yeah,
and how they can support him.
They're being very needs-led. Okay. So that might be he has a visit to school. Okay, that might be too confrontational. We've talked about visual support. What might he do before he has to have that visit to the school?
Get the teachers to come to him.
Get teachers to come to him, yeah? Anything else?
Some storyboards.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the visual support, pictures of the school, what it looks like, etc. Okay, so putting in that visual support for him. Working with the new staff over his needs. We know that he benefits from a lot of structure, a lot of scaffolding, so how might that feed into that transition? Would you say, right, next week you're going to the school 5 days a week, and how might that is what is going to happen? How might you do that? Or how might a team do that? absolutely, you build it up, yeah. So you go for a visit, you might go for 2 more visits, you might say a morning, you might say half a morning, and build it very slowly. Because what do you not want to happen? If it's a negative experience, he may never ever be able to go back there. Yeah.
Socially, maybe you might want to educate the other children on any difficulties he has as well.
You might want to. It's a difficult one, that, isn't it? It's about other children understanding, but it might be something to think about, talk to the child about whether they want the other children to know things. Yeah. So what about the report then? So you've got an SLP meeting which is part of a multidisciplinary team. Right. What's not great about that report? What's good? What's not good? How might you change it? How might it be better written?
Well, I don't really understand how he has a high score higher than the standard, and then it says he has below average range. So I don't really get that. So
Which one?
in expressive language, it says his raw score is 9 out of 25, standard score is 5, and then goes he has below average range for his age. So that
So
could
he has
be-
a standard score of 5 on the ACE, is that the one you mean?
Sorry, yes. So on the ACE it says raw score is 9 out of 25 and standard score is 5. And then go and say he's below average. So it could do with explaining that.
Okay, so that's a problem with this report, isn't it? Why is it a problem? Only you know about standardised assessments, okay? Only you know about language standardised assessments. And what you've got here are a series of standardised assessments that have different scores. Okay, so standard scores on the CAL, yeah, have a different scoring range from standard scores on the BPDS and other standard scores. So where you've got a standard score of 5 on the A, that's a low score. That makes sense. Only you know about the standardised assessment.
It's often useful to use like the age equivalent, like what kind of level he's at, even though that's not strictly true,
Right.
but it's more understandable for the people.
So you might look at age equivalent scores. Okay. Remember, only you know about standardised language assessment. If the psychologist wrote you a report with a battery of standardised scores for assessments you've never heard of, what would you do?
Scores what they got out of the test and it's standardised.
There's an issue here about how you report the scores and how you report the standardised scores. So how might you improve on that in this report?
After each bit of technical information is given, there can be a simple summary in common everyday language.
You need an explanation. Whatever you do, you need an explanation of what that assessment does and what it's supposed to test. You might put that in an appendix, for example, where the scoring systems are explained. So that's one way of explaining it more. What might be a more radical approach to writing this report? You've got to write something, you've got to do something on paper, but what might be a more radical one?
Could you leave some of the information out?
Yeah.
Like some of the scoring that people don't know.
Yeah. So you could just miss it out. You could just say we did these assessments and they're reported at the end of the report, if you want to look at them. So what would you then talk about in your report that perhaps could be more helpful?
Maybe like the strengths of the various needs.
Absolutely. So you could take a more functional approach and write about what the child can do, what the child is more difficult, and actually the more interesting and the more helpful bit for everybody, what everybody can do to help that child. Okay, that's what you really want when you receive a report from another professional.
I'm just thinking also that maybe use of images, graphical information rather than text,
Yeah,
might be a little bit more helpful.
absolutely. Yep. I mean, if you've got lots of time, you can do these things. If you're up against it, you might have to keep things short. But you might want to be more about strengths and weaknesses and what helps that child with respect to what's going on. So they're looking to make a transition back to school, trying to improve communication between family, etc. What you can do, what you can suggest that may be more helpful. But as always, report writing will depend upon the service that you're in and maybe some other requirements that you have to think about. But a different way to do that can make it much more functional. Okay, so the role of the SLT there is very much aiding in that differential diagnosis process, looking at their needing further information around non-verbal cognition and functioning, working with the other professionals in the team about the impact of the communication, play that role around facilitating optimal communication between the client and the family and professionals. And you tend to do a lot because often these children have had really difficult times, and the last thing they're ever going to do is sit in a room with you and look at pictures and do things. Okay, they're just not there. They've had such difficult times with that. Histories of failures, they're just not going to sit in a room with you and really supporting you. So a lot of this is working with the environment and with the staff. Any questions about that? Okay, so let's have a look at another example. Okay, this is something that I was involved in a while ago, and looking at the role of speech and language therapy with adults who have primary mental health problems. It's a history of primary mental health problems only, and they have communication problems because of that. What we need to bear in mind with all of this is that there's very little evidence, if any, for any effectiveness for speech and language therapy for people with mental health problems. And there also aren't any nice books or programmes that you can get out of the resources room that say it's working with people with mental health problems. So speech therapists in this field tend to be very eclectic, take different approaches from different areas and bringing them together. So quite a skill to have. So it has a long-standing history of schizophrenia. Let's just remind ourselves about schizophrenia. So you may remember people talk about schizophrenia having positive symptoms and negative symptoms. What's the difference between the positive and the negative symptoms? They're up there, but essentially what is it?
Positive means additional things.
Yeah.
But a negative means a lot.
Yeah, so the positive means there's, as you say, additional things, there's sort of active things and behaviours going on. So things like hallucinations, your delusions, positive symptoms. Your negative symptoms are where the person's often gone through that stage of having positive symptoms, and there's a real kind of slump almost. So the negative symptoms are about the lack of motivation, social withdrawal, social isolation, etc., etc. So we're thinking about the negative symptoms. A lot of interventions in schizophrenia tend to focus on the positive symptoms, particularly because they're quite amenable to pharmacological intervention. And there tends to be much less support around the negative symptoms. And specific medical terminology that we're thinking about are the poverty of speech here, to some extent the poverty of thought, and the social withdrawal. So poverty of speech being, you remember, where somebody's in that negative phase and they don't speak very much. That's all that it means. They're isolated, withdrawal, and they're not talking. So we had a gentleman who was 53 with acute psychiatric services, so his first contact had been at the age of 17 when he'd been working. He hadn't worked since that time, and over the years he's become what people would describe as a chronic schizophrenic, so long-standing behavioural difficulty. His medical label was paranoid schizophrenia with a concurrent depressive episode. Okay, so paranoid schizophrenia with depression as well. Had some positive symptoms that they've kind of reduced, and had some delusions, some thought interference, and now he's having lots of negative symptoms, so poverty of speech, extreme anxiety, withdrawal and isolation. Had no history of speech and language communication problems, no history of learning disability, no history of special schooling. Okay, none of those sorts of historical features at all. He was 53 at the time. So here is a gentleman, and I'll just describe him, who had been admitted to the acute ward again voluntarily, really struggling, unable to come out of his room, okay, lots of anxiety to the extent he couldn't come out to make a cup of tea, he needed support to do that. But had to come to a weekly ward round with the doctors, which was fairly excruciating and confrontational, where we'd have to sit in a room and sit medics and nurses and talk about how he was feeling that week. And he wasn't able to do that. Poverty of speech, the extreme anxiety, meant that he wasn't able to do that. And people were looking to find ways to help him to integrate back into the life he'd had previously, living in some supportive accommodation with support, and doing daily things that he wanted to be doing. So here we had a more specific type of intervention, so more direct intervention, where the intervention was around targeting those negative symptoms, not the positive ones, but the negative ones. So, for example, was it possible to decrease anxiety when talking to people? Could that be a more positive experience? Would he be able to say more about what he was thinking and feeling? And therefore, his intervention from the service as a whole could be increased. So, his negative symptoms: poverty of speech, extreme anxiety, withdrawal of social isolation, a very negative attitude communication, not something he wanted to do, didn't enjoy it at all, and a traditional, non-traditional speech and language therapy methods, as we called it. But really, it was about desensitising him, helping him to become more comfortable with talking. And by doing that, you could increase his productivity in his talking, make him more aware of his own communication skills, and he would have some ability to contribute to his management, which at the time was being decided by lots of people. And essentially, the intervention was not rocket science at all. It was really about constructing a series of tasks and activities where he would be comfortable interacting with myself, it was, so whether he could tolerate me in the same room as him, whether he could tolerate me talking to him, whether we could actually complete an activity together, so he liked crosswords, so whether we could share that activity, if he could do that, whether I could talk to him while we were sharing that activity, etc. So building up, desensitising him to me, to the point that he was able to talk to me, and then starting it all over again with his nose so that he could tolerate talking to her, again to another member of staff, and finally so that he could tolerate more group situations and tell people what he wanted from his treatment and what he wanted to do. Okay, so it wasn't rocket science at all. We had 5 measures. Okay, one of them was around attitude communication. We used the about confidence in communication. We looked at language productivity, which was taking a transcript from a ward round before we started and one after, and at the one after he was saying much, much more about himself and what confident he was at the beginning. Okay. And some language measures as well. And the intervention was partly successful, so it increased his verbal communication, his anxiety reduced, he had more appropriate social communication skills. Interestingly, his negative attitude communication didn't change. So what did that mean? So he improved on some of the areas, but he still had very negative attitude communication. So what had he learned to do? How had that intervention worked? Just learned to manage it, had some strategies for managing it. He still didn't like it, but he had some strategies and he could see the value of it, i.e. he could get his needs met more effectively. He also improved in how he evaluated himself, how he saw himself as a person. Have a look at that case study. I think it's quite interesting. All right, it gives us some interesting, a real case study about by evaluating real intervention in quite a complex area. So do have a look at that. So just a further note on intervention. So intervention to facilitate communication engagement. All right, a lot of this is about training, a lot of this is about modifying the environment. Not much of it is about direct intervention, aspects of their speech, for example. So it tends to be functional, it tends to be social, and it should be useful to the client as well. I'm running out of time, so let's just summarise. Okay, so talk about the example role of adults and children and individuals with complex needs and usually as part of a multidisciplinary team. Sometimes service mental health services are looking more to having some input on speech and language therapists who bring with them that specialist knowledge of communication, particularly the children's services, where often there's been early referrals around speech and language therapy, which children haven't attended, and they then go on to have some quite complicated needs after that. So there is a role there. Role of the SLP includes assessment, intervention and training. You do need to bear in mind there's very limited evidence base for this work, so we're drawing on evidence from other populations, etc., in order to make sure we are as evidence-based as we can. So, our learning outcomes from today, hopefully we can do those. We can lift behind groups, we can describe the role, and we've looked at some real examples too that you can bring into your own work. So, things to read. So, there's the case study we talked about of the adult with schizophrenia. There's a nice case study by Melanie Cross. It's quite old now, 14-year-old. She has Asperger's syndrome and emotional behavioural learning and language difficulties, and about intervention in order that people could understand his communication skills more, that he could engage with the psychotherapy that was going on at the same time. So a nice piece of work there about very multidisciplinary working. Alison Wincham's chat was very nice as well if you want to have a look at that too. I was finished. Are there any questions? It's not